Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
How are you all? Good. For those who don't know us, I am Nayaswami Daiva, and this is Nayaswami Gangamata, and we feel deeply blessed to be sharing this time with you. It's always a little sad at this time of year that the magic of Christmas, the outer trappings get dismantled and taken away. And we lose the global focus that has kind of come over the last month, kind of built toward the Christmas celebration. It is a remarkable time. And even though much of it gets swept away in kind of fairly frenetic material acquisition and focus, there's always still a very deep sweetness and power and beauty that comes during that time that can be felt. And you feel people reaching toward each other in divine friendship, and a sense of possibility is born. Winter is a magical time because it's a time where nature takes a rest, takes a breather, and we get a chance, it gets a chance to recalibrate, regenerate deep inside. And it should be the same thing it's possible for us also to use these cyclical times that are part of our world to also to grow naturally, to become naturally awakened. We lose Christmas to what is for most of us a brief moment of great inspiration around New Year's and all the great things we're going to do over the next 12 months. And if you look back annually, and most of us are old enough to have looked back repeatedly at if we've made kind of superficial and outward commitments for the year, many of us kind of look back and wonder what happened. But we often also, we did a fun thing yesterday. We had a breakfast we hosted out at Ananda Center at Laurelwood. We just cooked for everybody for the sake of wanting to have folks over and share time. And then one of the people in our group, Anandi Gray, she asked if it would be possible for her to lead a period of aspiration. It wasn't a bunch of commitments about actions and specifics that people were going to do, but what direction would you see your life going, and how would you encourage it? What would you aspire to this year? And it was remarkable, and I look back after that process. It was very fun, and then people shared with each other what it was they were working toward. And I look back across the years, and what I found more than not is that even though the commitments of a New Year's Eve resolution more frequently than not didn't get fulfilled, the tendency, the aspiration, and the yearning of the heart often got fulfilled in ways that were remarkable. I'd like to think for just a moment, look back across this last year, invite everybody to do the same thing. We all have a different storyline. Each one of us has a very remarkable and unique set of experiences. For Ananda as a whole, there have been some large influences that touched everybody. Swami Kriyananda, after 80-some years in the body and 60-some years as a disciple of this great yoga master, Paramahansa Yogananda, and after 48 years of having created Ananda as an expression of that upliftment, left the body in April. And for many people, it was a personal point of reference. For everybody who's connected with Ananda, it is the reason Ananda exists. In the course of his adulthood and last few years, he wrote over 400 pieces of music. He wrote 150 books-ish. There are many, many recorded and very inspiring talks and presentations that he made. it was quite a remarkable life. And his physical absence is a very remarkable turning point in the unfolding of the story that is Ananda in this world. It did two things. One, it took away that fountain of inspiration that was so easy to look at and see what it could look like to be in the midst of self-realization, in the midst of a flow of divine presence and joy. So kind of a global focus on this one individual got lost in that moment. But what happened is he talked through the course of his discipleship, his years of self-offering, he talked about the things that he was holding forth with were seminal. They were there as seed thoughts, as seed energies to take root in receptive hearts and minds, and for people to draw on the inspiration that was in the middle of those for their own awakening and for their own growth into spirit. And so what it's done in removing that single point of focus is it's left the rest of us responsible now for beginning to see how can we carry that light forward. The remarkable thing about Swami Kriyananda's life isn't all the things that he did, but in the inspiration that he awoke in the people who were around him, the people that listened to the music or watched the talks or read the books or read the books, there's a sense of personal possibility that awakens in the midst of that. And now we get to, with less distraction, we get to start to work even more deeply on how to carry that forward. And one of the things that he's always mentioned throughout is that it's in our service to others, it's in our making these things available to others that the fulfillment of our own aspirations happens. That we don't get liberated, we don't find God on our own for ourselves, even though ultimately we find God on our own and for ourselves. It's never in a vacuum, it's never independent of the environment in which we have been born and in which we live. And in fact, there's a very odd piece of mathematics that doesn't really work. It's inverse. But the understanding at the heart of it is so clearly true. Nobody gets free. This is a spiritual law. Nobody gets free in God until they have liberated 6 others. So if you try and do the math, it doesn't really work. It implies, if you follow that mathematics out, that everybody has to get liberated before anybody else. And so it can't happen. But of course, what the message in it is that we have to be so dedicated to the awakening of spirit in those around us, to the bringing of goodness into those around us, that we forget ourselves. And in the forgetting of ourselves, we find ourselves suddenly awake in spirit. Yogananda was, for those who don't know, I see some new faces. He was the author of Autobiography of a Yogi. He was, in large part, the reason that yoga exists in the West. He is the founder of, he was the spiritual teacher and master of the founder of Ananda. So he's very much the reason we are here. He was a wild man. He was absolutely wild. He would do anything to make it possible to have a deeper and richer experience of spirit inside. And so through the course of his youth, he would meditate all night at burning ghats, at funeral ghats. He would go down into sub basements where there was virtually no oxygen left, and he would meditate for long periods of time. He would just do anything that would help him overcome his own sense of limitation and set free inside him the movement of spirit inside, and leave him free from all limitation. When he came to the West in 1920, he came with that vitality and with that vigor. And it was the sheer magnetism of his presence that drew tens of thousands of people at a time to listen to him speak and to feel that great sense of possibility expressed in a human being. And in that presentation, they could feel their own possibility awakening. In 1935, he wrote, each year he would write something for the new year, but in 1935 he wrote one that is fairly compelling. I've always loved the spirit in this. The bells have pealed the opening of the portals of all hope in the new year. The ever-marching pallbearers of time have carried the depression, disease, and failure-stricken deceased old year to be delightfully buried in the cemetery of happy oblivion. Do not again conjure up the specter of the trialsome past to stalk silently on the fields of your soul forces and scare your determination, enthusiasm, and perseverance away. And this is where it gets great. Behold, through the gates of the new year, the distant, gaudy decorations of future achievements glimmering at you and daringly alluring you to give pursuit. Simply watching them with the hope of accomplishment will not count. You must start racing calmly at top speed. Performing more miracles of greater speed on the way. You must follow a long trail armed with the pistol of divine determination and must shoot down the robbers, mental and physical idleness, lack of creative ability, doubt, fear, despondency, and bad habits. The path may be sunlit by opportunities or dreary with trials, but remember to try your utmost, and then try again and again after you think you have done your best and can do no more. After making such an effort, then, out of the gloom of mysteries, the all-illuminating light of the divine guidance will emblazon your path. Before his light, all messengers of darkness will fly away, and his wisdom will clasp the hand of your infinite determination and lead the footsteps of your conscious efforts unerringly, fearlessly, through your strength-testing trials to the goal of ever-satisfying fulfillment. Hope and faith in the divine guidance of your consciously initiated, continued efforts for material and spiritual success will quickly lead you to your goal, already dimly visible through the portals of the new year. Come, ye brother idlers, shirkers, and enthusiasts, and with awakened, lasting, real, and continuous striving, follow the golden trail of achievement, so clearly visible through the assuring, welcoming portals of the new year. As you are hoping to return home after the trials of many incarnations, God is impatiently, with a greater burning desire, hoping that you will, of your own heaven-awarded free will, soon direct your joyously willing, truant footsteps to march toward the sanctuary of complete inner fulfillment, there to rest in the homestead of infinity. After service today, we're going to invite everyone who can to stay and have some soup and snacks with us afterwards, and those who can to help us wash away the memory of this Christmas season. We'll take down the tree, pack up the beautiful ornaments, we'll dismantle the altar, we'll move the chairs and get ready for a deep cleaning tomorrow, and then on Wednesday, we'll take down parts of the boutique, we'll pack it all up, and set the stage for a fresh start for this new year. I'd like to encourage us to think inside ourselves, not about what surface things would we change. I'm going to do more sit-ups, I'm going to eat bran every morning, whatever the heck it is. But to think, what consciousness do I dare to aspire to this year? What would I become? What would I open to allow the light of God to shine more brightly into this world? How would I hold myself? And what would I do daily to make it possible for that to flow into this world? This world is, we are so privileged on a planet of real trial and trouble. Somebody posted on Facebook something from, I believe it's Syria, that's in civil war right now. And it was a 3-year-old. It's a picture of a 3-year-old, and just before he's about to leave this world, and he says, in his language, he says, "When I die, I am going to tell God everything." The forces of darkness, the forces of ugliness and hate and misunderstanding and selfishness and greed and self-centeredness are rampant on this planet. And the only thing that keeps them from completely overwhelming this planet is the self-offering and the determination of those who would hold something else possible in this world. Pettiness, lack of a willingness to courage, lack of a willingness to expansive thinking, selfishness, self-centeredness. They make it possible for those other forces to win. The Masters would tell us that there's an infinite amount of power, an infinite amount of joy, an infinite amount of support for those who would, against all odds, hold that light. And I would invite each one of us, as we explore where our lives will go for this next year, to consider the possibility of coming together as friends and champions of that consciousness, of that light, and hold the possibility of divine happiness and cooperation and consideration and respect. Alive in this world, the invitation to less is rampant even in our culture, where we don't see many signs of outward war. But the invitation to smallness is there. Yogananda used to say, he used to remind people, he didn't create the fact, he noted the fact and shared it, that environment is stronger than willpower. Who you choose to be around will make the difference in what you're able to hold. And Ananda was formed in large part at this time to make it possible for people who aspire to the light. You know, unfortunately, there are many people who don't aspire to the light. There are many people that think that happiness comes from destroying others, from hurting others, from getting for themselves things at the cost of others' happiness. There's not much but karma that will help them discover what's true. But for those who aspire to wholeness, to happiness, to that light, and to making that light possible and creating a place for it in this world, coming together as brothers and sisters, as friends, to reinforce those qualities in our own consciousness and in those around us is absolutely essential at this time. And I encourage all of us to think this year, coming forward, how can we lend ourselves more powerfully to that light, to that satsang, to that friendship and gathering together, so that our lives become richer and the lives of others are touched more deeply, and the sense of possibility can spread into the places where right now despair and pain and sadness reign. I'd like to end with a reading. This is number 147 from Yogananda's book, Whispers from Eternity. It's a book of prayer demands and poems. I want to use my own will, but guide it ever, Father, toward the golden paradise of fulfillment. For I would be infinity's smiling child. confident of being imprisoned no longer behind the bars of fruitless desires and withered hopes. I would break the shameful cords of lethargy that have presumed to hold me and step fearlessly into freedom. Released, I now blaze my way through forests of every limitation and delusion. Oh, my little vain ego may strut proudly, saying, "Behold my glory, worship me." But I will look through its transparent form and behold thine unimaginable beauty, clothed in the subtle form of the whole universe. The silence-tuned hearing of my soul will ignore that tiny, boasting masquerader, my little self impersonating thee, and will listen rapturously to the wind-born, fragrant music of thine own matchless voice whispering across the ages, "I am he." Let's take a moment of silence.